A pleasant day to each and everyone. I am John Rex O. Anyora, and I am your navigator for today, at the same time your reporter, with the title Chapter 2, The Firm and Its Environment, prepared by Group 2. And these are the members: Amarga Ninya Jane, Anyora John Rex, Tormocha Jalma, Guido Gwyneth, Castillo Lian, Ortega April Marie, and Mayol Josh. And now, we will tackle about the lesson 4, environmental scanning. Our objectives for today. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to 1. Define environmental scanning. 2. Identify the various forces in the firm's environment. 3. Discuss SWOT and past analysis. 4. Identify common elements and differences between the two techniques. And 5. Employ SWOT and past analysis in analyzing the business environment of a firm and in other situations. And now, let's first tackle about the major problems faced by businesses.
Uncertainty strikes fear in company executives because it affects can result in staggering cost. Unexpected future events can detail a company off the business track if the management is not prepared with a contingency plan. So uncertainty is a situation which involves imperfect or unknown information. It applies to predictions of future events, to physical measurements that are already made, or the unknown. Globalization is a concern for top company executives because of the changes it brings. These changes may require costly adjustment to cope with the challenges of serving new market and trends. Globalization also results in stiff competition among companies since the business operations shift to the international scene. So we all know that globalization touches every part of our lives, from the product we used to buy, to the food we eat, and to the ways we communicate with one another. Globalization represents a gradual melding of business cultures around the world, as well as the creation of new marketplaces to facilitate trade between geographically distant people. So gaining access to markets around the world allows each country to fully leverage its own unique natural advantages. Innovation is companies should build a more innovative culture in their respective organizations. Large companies are afraid that innovation will result in the relaxation of protocols and practices, which leads to loss of control. So innovation refers to the introduction of something new, unique, and different that has not been invented yet. It is the management of innovation processes. It refers both to product and organizational innovation. It includes a set of tools that allow managers and engineers to cooperate with a common understanding of processes and goals. Innovation management allows the organization to respond to external or internal opportunities and use its creativity to introduce new ideas, processes, or products. Government policies is companies should adhere to government regulations and policies that relate to the environmental, financial, marketing, and other aspects of business. Such policies may complicate decision of top executives, but managers should continually improve their skills to address the effects of these policies. So government policies will influence the production processes of the business. The government may increase taxes on some inputs, making the production of goods and services more expensive. Government are concerned about the large business creating monopolies and will look to protect smaller businesses.
Technology. Technological advancements happen fast, and companies have to cope by investing in new technologies to take advantage of their benefits. Investing in new technology enables a company to take advantage of the next technological developments and smoothly transition to future innovations. Diversity adds value to products and services since different ideas and perspectives are utilized in the process. Managers need to make the proper adjustments in their communication with employees, suppliers, customers, investors, and business partners. Complexity. Globalization and information technology have led to the emergence of a complex business environment. Business transactions have become more complex because of the diverse cultures of people across countries. Information overload. Innovations in information technology have led to fast-paced communication and the availability of a large amount of information on the internet. Effective information management is a good investment since the result can provide valuable insights, especially for marketing and strategic purposes.
Let's move on to environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is the actual monitoring and evaluation of information from the external and internal environment of a business organization. Also, the basic purpose of environmental scanning is to help the management to determine the future direction of an organization. Number 1. Ad hoc environmental scanning is not often done and is usually applicable only during a crisis. The firm does an ad hoc scanning is to determine whether a problem is either external or internal. Also, using this approach, an organization when undertakes special projects, evaluate existing strategies or devise new strategies, may conduct special surveys and studies to deal with specific environmental issues periodically, or it is also known as irregular scanning. Number 2. Regular scanning is usually done at least once a year or irregular intervals. Regular scanning systems revolve around a regular review of an environment or significant environmental components. This review is often made annually. Lastly, number 3. Continuous scanning refers to the continuous collection of data on a broad range of environmental factors. These systems constantly monitoring the components of an organizational environment. The next topic is all about strategic planning, SWOT, and pest analysis.
What is SWOT analysis? SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT analysis is a technique addressing the four aspects of your business. In short, SWOT analysis helps you and the employees know about the advantages and disadvantages of your business. Strengths are the things that your organization is particularly good at, or they are good at doing that particular work. Think about your advantages that the other organization doesn't have. For example, your head consultant has a strong reputation in the market. Weaknesses, opposite to strengths. Weaknesses are the features your organization is either lacking or they are not really good in a particular area. These are the disadvantages in your business or company. For example, your company is short of staff and some of them don't really know this particular area on how to work. Opportunities. Opportunities are openings or chances for something positive to happen. Opportunities are hard to find nowadays since the business industry is currently rising. That's why you should always have an eye to what might happen in the future. For example, local governments want to encourage local businesses. There are chances that your company might rise up again. Threats. Threats include the things that can negatively affect your business from outside, such as shifts in market requirements and shortage of recruits. Threats are also the things that you should avoid in the future and always focus on how to encounter the threats that your company is facing. For example, a small change in the focus of large competitor might wipe out any market position that your company or business achieves. SWOT analysis is a simple but useful framework for analyzing your organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It helps you to know your advantages and disadvantages in the business industry.
After conducting the SWOT analysis, a company can formulate strategies using the matrix below. So, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are from internal environment, and while opportunities and trends are from external environment. So, when we combine strength from internal and opportunities from external, it will become strengths, opportunities, strategies, or SO. Which of the company strengths can be used to take advantage of the opportunities identified. It means using strengths to take advantage of opportunities. Next is strengths and traits. When we combine, it becomes strengths, traits, strategies, or ST. How can the strengths be used to minimize the traits that were identified? It means that using strengths to avoid traits. Next is weaknesses and opportunities. When we combine, it will become weaknesses, opportunities, strategies, or WO. How can the identified opportunities be used to address the company's weaknesses? It means that overcoming weaknesses by taking advantage of opportunities. Last is weaknesses and traits. Same procedure. By combining the weaknesses and traits, it will become weaknesses, traits, strategies, or WT. How can weaknesses be minimized to avoid the impending traits identified? It means that minimize weaknesses and avoid traits. That's all. Thank you.
The next is the PEST analysis.
PEST analysis. PEST analysis is a method used in analyzing the political, economic, social, and technological forces affecting the company. The technique focuses on the factors that define the macro environment of the business. So, PEST analysis stands for political, economic, social, and technological. This type of analysis is used to measure external factors that could impact the profitability or degree of a company. PEST analysis helps you determine how these factors will affect the performance and activities of your business in the long term. So first, the P, which stands for the political factors. Political factors relate to how the government intervenes in the economy. Specifically, political factors have areas including tax policy, labor law, environmental law, trade restrictions, tariffs, and political stability. Economic factors include economic growth, exchange rates, inflation rate, and interest rates. Political factors can impact a business by making the market environment more or less friendly for that business. Typically, governments have a great deal of power over businesses, and many times there is not much that businesses can do about it. Next is the E, that stands for economic factors. Economic factors directly affect the capability of businesses to generate profits. These include economic growth, interest rates, exchange rates, and inflation rate. These factors are not in direct relation with business, but it influences the investment value in the future. While economic factors are not the only thing influencing economic development, they are important for understanding the capacity or the ability of the economy to develop on its own. Then, let's move on to the third one, which is the social factors. Social factors represent another important set of influences on consumer behavior. Specifically, these are the effects of people and groups influencing one another through culture, subculture, social class, reference groups, and family. Social factors include demographic aspects such as age, group, affiliation, religion, civil status, and the economic status of consumers.
Analyzing social factors can also help a company implement changes and improvements in its operations, products, and services. The last one is the T, which stands for technological factors. Technological factors are the innovations and developments in technologies. These factors impact an organization's operations. Technological factors include research, development activities, automation, technological shifts, and outsourcing decisions. An important technological factor at present is the Internet, which has greatly improved the way business functions are done. Social media has introduced new avenues for promoting and marketing products and services. Purchasing, delivery, promotion, and customer service have been reformed by technology. Production operations have greatly improved through automation. Companies, therefore, need to keep track of the latest technologies and determine ways that these can aid in their business processes. Since the pest analysis exclusively focuses on the macro environment of the firm, it can guide managers to identify the reasons why their business is growing or failing within a certain environment. It also helps the company identify new directions for growth and expansion. A major limitation, though, with pest analysis is that it does not consider the internal elements of the company.
Political factors. Political factors include laws, regulations, and restrictions that may interfere or affect the company's business course. Businesses must comply with rules and regulations imposed by the government, and compliance requires managers to adjust their operations accordingly. Also, the businesses have to comply with the required legal documents, pay fees, and secure permits before they begin their operations. And lastly, another significant factor for business are zoning restrictions.
Economic development refers to the process by which the overall health, well-being, and academic level the general population improves. In business, it is the process by which emerging economies become advanced economies.
Social factors include demographic aspects such as age, group affiliation, religion, civil status, and economic status of consumers. Analyzing social factors can also help a company implement changes and improvement in its operations, products, and services. Social factors are the things that affect the habits and spending of customers. It also represents another important set of influences on consumers' behavior. Technological factors includes research and development activities, automation, licensing, patenting, technological shifts, and outsourcing decisions. An important technological factor at present is the Internet, which has greatly improved the way business functions are done. Production operations have greatly improved through automation companies. Therefore, we need to keep track of the latest technologies and determine ways that these can aid in their business processes. So, technological factors have a critical macroeconomic influence on a business operations, its products, how it delivers its services, and even its markets. Technology has a big impact on business operations. Without the technology, companies would almost certainly fail to accomplish all the things that they need to do.
And now, we will fly high to the lesson 5, the local and international business environment. As we move forward, these are the objectives for today. At the end of this lesson, students are expected to 1. Recognize the factors that affect the local business environment. 2. Acknowledge the forces that affect the international business environment. 3. Discuss the different phases of economic development. And 4. Explain the role of business in the economy.
Good day to all of you. I'm Jelma, the reporter today. So, our topic for today is all about external business management. It refers to the forces, factors within the organization which may affect either positively or negatively. When we talk about external environment, it refers to all the factors and conditions that are external to the organization and have an impact on its decisions, objectives, and overall performance. And also, external environment provides input like raw materials, labor, money, energy to the organizations, which are then converted into product or services and returns to the external environment as an output. So these are some examples of external environment. Changes to the economy and government regulations. When we say changes to the economy, it talks about inflation. It talks about inflation. It talks about inflations and unemployment. And also, when we talk about government regulations, it talks about laws, patakaran. The things that we can say about external environment is they are competitors, suppliers, and distributors. There are two types of external environment, the microenvironment and the macroenvironment. When we talk about microenvironment, it consists of the factors that directly impact the operation of a company. There are 5 factors that affect the microenvironment. First is suppliers, second is customers, third is marketing intermediaries, fourth is financiers, and the last one is public perceptions. And when we talk about macro environment, it consists of the general factors that a business typically has no control over. There are 6 factors that affect the macro environment, or we can call it the general factors, and this includes economic, sociocultural, politico-legal, demographic, technical, and world and ecological situations. What are these? First is economic. It is one of the most important external influences on business because fluctuations in the level of economic activities create business cycles that affect businesses and individuals in many ways. For example, unemployment creates our low and income levels rise. This is the time that inflations and interest rates comes. Through the policies it sets, such as taxes and interest rate levels, a government attempts to stimulate on the level of economic activity. Second is sociocultural. This includes how customers behave. For example, are customers choosing? Second is sociocultural. This includes how consumers behave. For example, are consumers choosing to improve their health by walking or biking to work? Third is politico-legal. It is changes in government policies and spending can affect the business. For instance, rules and regulations can affect in business. Fourth is demographic. It is an uncontrollable factor in the business environment and extremely important to manager. When we say about demography, it is the study of people's vital statistics such as their age, gender, race, and ethnicity, and also location. Demographics help companies define the markets for their products and also determine the size and compositions of the workforce. Today, business must deal with a unique shopping preference of different generations, which each require marketing approaches and goods services targeted to their needs. Fifth is technology. It is the application of the science and engineering skills and knowledge to solve production and organizational problems. Our ability as a nation to maintain and build wealth depends in large part and the speed with which we use technology to invert and adopt more efficient equipment to improve manufacturing productivity to develop new products. Sixth and the last one is world and ecological situations. This relates to the increasing number of global competitors and market, as well as the nature and conditions of the changing natural environment. It must cater to the changing needs of people in global community, while at the same time considering their impact on the natural environment. So, those are the 6 factors of macro environment.
Hello everyone, I am Ninia Amarga, the reporter for today. Let's now move on to internal business environment. So internal business environment refers to the forces or factors within the organization which may affect either positively or negatively. So this means that the internal business environment refers to anything within the company and under the control of the company, no matter whether they're tangible or intangible. These factors, after being figured out, are grouped into the strengths and weaknesses of the company. If one element brings positive effects to the company, it is considered a strength. On the other hand, if a factor prevents the development of the company, it is a weakness within the company. Numerous criteria need to be taken into consideration. So, specific internal business environment includes the organization's resources, production, procurement of supplies, and products and services offered. These are the things that are included in internal business environment. In conclusion, there are a bunch of contributing factors to the success of the company which come from both outside and inside the business. Either outside or inside factors are of utmost importance for the development of the company. If a business hopes to perform smoothly and successfully, they need to consider all these elements before making any decision. So again, internal business environment refers to anything within the company and under the control of the company, unlike external business environment, affecting factors outside and under no control of the company. And it is important to recognize potential opportunities and threats outside company operations. However, managing the strengths of internal operations is the key to business success.
The next topic is all about the local and international business environment of the firm. And now, let's move on to our second topic, the local and international business environment of the firm.
Good day, everyone. I am Gwyneth Z. Guido, your reporter for today's topic about environmental scanning. Environmental scanning involves the seeking of and sorting through data about the organization's environment. It is also a process of gathering, analyzing, and dispensing information for tactical or strategic purposes. It is monitoring and interpreting sweep of social, political, economic, ecological, and technological events to spot budding trends that could eventually impact industry. So we all know that environmental scanning is one of the essential components of the global environment analysis. It can also be defined as the study and interpretation of the political, economic, social, and technological events and trends which influence a business, an industry, or even a total market. The factors which need to be considered for environmental scanning are events, trends, issues, and expectation of the different interest groups. Environmental scanning not only helps the business find its strengths in its current environment, but it also finds the weakness of competitors, identifies new markets and coming technological platforms, and devices that can be used to sell or market the product or service. When scanning the environment, the organization needs to look at all the influences of the company. The scanning process makes the organization aware of what the business environment is about.
The components of environmental scanning: the development of a competitive mindset, considering of future business scenarios, business prediction or forecasting, benchmarking, or the process of measuring or comparing one's own product, services, and practices with those of the recognized industry leaders in order to identify areas for improvement.
Cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is an individual's ability to favorably receive and adjust to an unfamiliar way of doing things. It also refers to the skill to relate and work effectively in culturally diverse situations. It is the capability to cross boundaries and prosper in multiple cultures. Monochronic culture. Monochronic culture is a culture where people tend to do one thing at a time. They value a certain orderliness and sense of there being an appropriate time and place for everything. Monochronic culture schedules one event at a time in an orderly fashion. Polychronic culture. Polychronic culture is a culture that is more flexible on time and it is used to accomplish many different things at one time. It is basically a culture built on multitasking. Generally speaking, people from polychronic cultures manage interruptions well and are more flexible when it comes to change.
And now, to our number 3, the phases of economic development.
The significance of science and technology in economic development is to increase the chances of growth of its own company. Growth lies in the integration of basic and applied research on an international scale. In economy, part of its phases is to socialize and interact with others. It is useful to get more chances of opportunities. In economics, the common good, also as general welfare, refers to either what is shared and beneficial for all or most members of a given community, or alternatively, what is achieved by citizenship, collective action, and active participation in their realm.
After the economic development, let's now go on to economic phases or stages. The first is economic growth. So, economic growth refers to an increase in the productive capacity of an economy, as a result of which the economy is capable of producing additional quantities of goods and services. Normally, our standard of living is measured by the number of goods and services available to us, so that the economic growth is synonymous with an increase in the general standard of living. So, economic growth is important to us because it is how we can improve the quality of standard of living. It also enables us to cater to any increases in our population without having to lower our standard of living. Next, the improvement of the Human Development Index. So, human development is defined as a process of enlarging people's freedoms, opportunities, and improving their well-being. Human development is about the real freedom ordinary people have to decide who to be, what to do, and how to live. And the importance of the Human Development Index is that it is an essential indicator of the overall socio-economic conditions of a nation and its residents. since it takes into account various parameters to determine the development of those areas. It is an effective way to evaluate the performance of every nation, and that is the improvement of the Human Development Index.
And lastly, number 4, forms of business organizations.
Business organization is a collection of people working together to achieve a common purpose related to their organization's missions, visions, goals, and objectives, and sharing a common organizational culture. There are 4 types of businesses organizations. First is sole proprietorship. The simplest and most common form of business ownership. Sole proprietorships is a business owned and run by someone for their own benefit. The business existence entirely depend on the owner's decisions. So when the owner dies, so does the businesses. Second is partnership. These come into 2 types, general and limited. In general partnerships, both owners invest their money, property, labor, etc. to the business and are both 100% liable for business debt. General partnerships also do not require a formal agreement. Partnerships can be verbal or even implied between the 2 businesses owners. While limited partnerships require a formal agreement between the partners, they must also file a certificate of partnerships with the state. Third is corporation are for tax purposes, separate ties, and are considered a legal person. This means, among other things, that the profit generated by a corporation are taxed as the personal income of the company. Then any income distributed to the shareholders or dividends or profits are taxed again as the personal income of the owners. And the last one is LLC or Limited Liability Company. It is similar to a limited partnership and An LLC provides owners with limited liability while providing some of the income advantages of partnerships.
Organizational culture. It is the set of beliefs and values shared by organization members and which guide them as they work together to achieve their common purpose. Also, an organization's culture defines the proper way to behave within the organization. This culture consists of shared beliefs and values established by leaders and then communicated and reinforced through various methods, ultimately shaping employee perceptions, behaviors, and understanding. And now, we will tackle the last subtopic of the firm and its environment, the ethical environment of the firm. Objectives for today. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to 1. Determine the ethical issues of business. 2. Identify the 5 perspectives in ethics. 3. explain the relevance of corporate social responsibilities in an organization. 4. Discuss corporate integrity and its dimensions. 5. Differentiate social obligations from social responsiveness. And 6. Describe how organizations apply social responsibility in their activities.
Ethics. Ethics is a set of principles that guide people's behavior and judgment. In business, ethical standards are created so that managers can uphold certain values by making meaningful and just decisions in their business activities and various transactions. Ethics in business is a practice that determines what is right, wrong, and appropriate in the workplace. The purpose of ethics in business is to ensure a consistent moral attitude within the company.
Business ethics and management. Business ethics. Business ethics refers to the standards for morally right and wrong conduct in business. Ethics in business is important because that's where we can see how organizations or companies handle a situation that requires moral decisions. Business requires making countless decisions on a daily basis, such as which vendor to use for various services or which customers to call and many more. It's easy to make decisions for oneself, but it's not that easy to make decisions when you're in business, since it's not just yourself who's involved, but everyone who works with you. What is management? In simple terms, management means directing and controlling an organization or a group of people to reach and accomplish the desired goals and objectives together. Management is being led by the manager, who is in charge of planning, leading, organizing, and controlling his or her team. Management ethics. Management ethics involves leaders protecting employees, customers, and society from any negative consequences that could happen to them from the actions they made in their business. Ethics in management is the responsibility of the manager, since they are the one who's in charge of leading his or her team.
Perspective on ethics is the lens an individual uses to view a problem. Each person has such a perspective, whether or not they realize it. Whatever perspective is used or promoted within an organization will ultimately shape how ethical decisions are reached. In deciding on ethical issues, there are 5 guiding principles may be used. First is universalism. This is the principle which states that all people should have a certain values like honesty, respect, and cooperation. Universalism requires every person to enact these values in the same way under all circumstances and at all time. For example, discussions of universal human rights emphasize not only that all humans have rights, but that they all have the same rights. Example of universally wrong actions are murder, rape, torture, while example of universally good actions are charity and good manners. Second guiding principles in perspective on ethics is egoism. This is the principle which promotes the greatest good to oneself. It is focused on the perspective that people ultimately act for self-advancement, no matter how good their intentions are. Based on the view, it is permissible for a person to cooperate with others as long as this will serve his or her own interest. For example, egotists often talk about themselves a lot, not listening to others, which makes people dislike them. In contrast, egoist might act very humbly and pay attention to others because it is in their best interest to make people like them and want to treat them well. That's all.
3. Utilitarianism. This is the principle which focuses on the greatest good for the greatest number of people. In this perspective, the ultimate concern of managers is to make decisions that are beneficial to the greatest number of people. Also, utilitarianism is the theory morality that advocates actions that foster happiness or pleasure, and opposite actions that can cause unhappiness or harm. Utilitarianism would say that an action is right if it results in the happiness of the greatest number of people in the society or a group. 4. Relativism. Relativism is the principle which states that ethical behavior is based on a person's own and other relevant people's opinion and viewpoints. It acknowledges that there are different standards for each culture. Therefore, business transactions may proceed differently from one culture or another. Also, relativism, roughly put, is the view that truth or falsity, right and wrong, standards and reasoning, and procedures of justification are products of different conventions and frameworks of assessment, and there are no authority as confined to the context given rise to them. Lastly, number 5. Virtue ethics. This is the principle which states that morality depends on the maturity of a person with good moral character. Also, virtue ethics mainly deals with the honesty and morality of a person. It states that practicing good habits such as honesty, generosity, makes a moral and virtuous person. It guides a person with specific rules for resolving the ethical complexity.
Corporate integrity. Corporate integrity refers to that sense of wholeness created by the right relationships among members of the corporation. It has 5 dimensions: cultural, interpersonal, organizational, social, and natural. So, corporate integrity is about enhancing a company's viability, competitiveness, and longevity by aligning commercial goals with honest, transparent ways of doing business throughout the company. The first dimension is the cultural dimension. Cultural dimension has the most impact on the internal relationships in the company. Culture is what unites employees, and cultural aspects such as language, rituals, behavioral patterns, and beliefs form the framework that determines how people relate to one another and engage with experiences and situations. So, the cultural dimension is perhaps the most fundamental because culture is what holds things together. Its language, rituals, and patterns of communication provide a rich context in which we discover how to relate to persons, experiences, and things. Having knowledge of how different features of a business are viewed in different cultures can help a manager in understanding and sales successfully across the international business market. Managers are encouraged to establish an open atmosphere that will facilitate communication among people with different cultures and backgrounds. Next is the interpersonal dimension. The interpersonal dimension focuses on the relationships among people. It is one developmental dimension within the meaning-making structure pertains to how one sees oneself with others.
Corporate integrity. To achieve integrity in one's business, the head or manager should consider such factors that will help the company to have a route to grow in. A corporation has different dimensions and laws to obey to achieve the agreement in having integrity in business or economy. The purpose of a Corporate Integrity Agreement, or CIA, is to improve the quality of healthcare and promote compliance with healthcare regulations.
Corporate social responsibility is the age of globalization brought about an increasing need for companies around the world to comply with certain corporate practices. For the most part, These corporate practices are homogeneous despite the differences in cultures of nations. One business practice that is considered viral to current international standards of business operation is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is closely related to the concepts of social obligation and social responsiveness. These define the extent to which a company is able to exercise social responsibility in its operations and activities. Corporate social responsibility enhances a company's image. Companies should always observe good and responsible practices to maintain a positive image in the public. So we all know that corporate social responsibility is one of the most important business ethics quality for an organization to become successful. It began to develop in the 1970s along with business ethics. The importance of social responsibility is it can decrease any undesirable characteristics towards an organization image. The reputation of an organization is very important, and implementing social responsibility can increase positive satisfaction results towards stakeholders and customers.
Continuation of the topic. All companies strive to incorporate elements of social responsibility in their operations. In terms of economic responsibility, the company should produce goods and services with reasonable prices. The goods and services should also satisfy the needs of its customers, stakeholders, and other members of society, even as they ensure sustainability and growth. For its legal responsibility, the organization should also comply with local and international laws that apply to its business operations. A company's ethical responsibilities include establishing norms, standards, mores, and practices that reflect fairness to the consumers, employees, shareholders, and the community. Lastly, its philanthropic responsibilities include the initiation of voluntary activities such as establishing corporate programs, donating to charitable institutions, and other similar charitable causes.